always nice to think about how our seasons as homeschool moms go through changes, sometimes as families, and often what we could do in one season, we can't do in another season. And when you and I started homeschooling years ago, we had a very clear picture of what homeschooling would look like. It was almost like a stereotypical mom with many children, and you cook from scratch. So you're baking your own bread and your children are happy alongside you, and you're in the nature study and you're playing music, and mom is home 24/7. And for a season in both our lives, that was the reality. But then things changed. And I thought it would be interesting for us to just briefly discuss some of the stereotypes that we need to let go of so that we can actually live with our children in an unfettered, free environment, so that we can go with the flow in the season that we're in. What do you think? What is your lesson in the last few years?
Well, definitely you and I have had to guard against busyness. And I think for other people, there's a lot of moms coming into homeschooling now, especially with the COVID pandemic, who are working part-time or even still working full-time, but they've decided to take on homeschooling as well. So they're not the little house on the prairie mom baking bread and sewing all their children's clothes and reading stories all day and doing, painting their own nature journal alongside their children. It's a whole different ball game. And I think, moms just need to accept that. Don't go and read the blogs that make you feel like you don't measure up. Just accept that we are all in different seasons. Many people don't know that I've had to take a full-time job for more than a year due to family decisions and circumstances that changed. And that's been a real juggle for me. And sometimes I feel bad that my younger 3 children aren't getting the same experience of homeschooling that the older 3 got, because they've got less time with me. But you know what? They're learning other lessons. And all of life is learning. And so we don't all get the same experience. The older children maybe had a different experience. Even as parents, we tend to do a better job with our younger children than with the older ones because we've got more experience.
Correct.
So seasons change. And I think our message is just to embrace what you are in, your circumstances for your family, and not try and compare and be something that you can't be because you're working part-time or you're working full-time or you're a single mom or a single dad or a dad that's homeschooling because the wife's out working or whatever the situation could be.
And there's so many different lessons that that our children can learn when you aren't there every day. It's so perhaps what you want to share maybe is some of the lessons, the good and the bad, hard lessons, because sometimes they are, that the kids have learned, so it might not be that you are teaching them to bake bread for a poor example, but they may have learned not to procrastinate if you've given them their schedule to work, and that's a hard lesson, but it's a good lesson to learn. So have there been those sort of situations?
So my 16-year-old son this year said he's finished the homeschool curriculum products that we've got that everybody else used for science and math and English. And he said he wants something that's online. So he's now doing an overseas online school curriculum that offers him those 3 subjects. And he's taken ownership of that. I haven't even looked at it except for the free trial because I don't have the time. But, I never would have thought that one of my kids will be doing one of these highly structured online school courses. But in this season, it's working. And that's what he chose to do. He wanted that because I said I would look at different other products, and I did. And then he said, no, he wants to do it online. One of the others had a hard lesson this week in procrastinating and how you should never put off until tomorrow what you can do today. And a whole bunch of todays caught up with the child. And, it was hard doing maths over the weekend because there were so many lessons behind. So it was a hard lesson. And, if mom had been there nagging every day of the week, it might not have happened. But it's a life lesson.
Absolutely.
And it's better to learn that now as a child at home than out there in the adult world in a job situation.
Correct.
And, even when I was sitting with my kids all day, not all day, but, when I was more available, there were still people who procrastinated and had to learn that lesson the hard way. So, I can blame myself or can just say, kids are sinners and they take chances and they push the boundaries and they have to learn, they have to learn the consequences.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't do as much reading aloud as I used to with my kids, of course. And some of them are readers that have just carried on reading for themselves, and others are not reading that much. They're doing more YouTubing and things like that. All of life is learning, so
Absolutely.
it just looks different.
It does. And I think the most important thing is for us who are in a season where things are much more gentle, much more easy, you with your kids, is to just be kind to the mom who is juggling both a job or a divorce or a husband who's not buying in, or whatever the situation is.
Or husband is ill. Some people
Correct.
have that, heart attacks and cancer and things like that.
Yeah, and I mean, COVID has really stirred up the pot. There's families all over who've have felt it, and the fact is that we just need to walk gently with one another and encourage and build up where we can, and not hold up a false ideal, which is such a hard taskmaster for others to live to. So well, thank you for sharing that. I think that it'll be encouraging for other moms who find themselves in a situation which is not really of their their own desire and choosing. Yeah. All right, lovely chatting.